Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another lesson in the Torah portion with the Rebbe's insight. Today we're starting the portion of Balak, and we're starting from selections from Likutei Sichos to Balak, the second talk. A short introduction. This portion is the only portion that's named after a non-Jew. There are about 5 portions in the Torah that are named after persons. Let's start. Noach, Jethro.
Yeah, but that's a non-Jew. He's a non-Jew.
Just a minute.
Okay.
Korach, Balak, and Pinchas. There are 5. All of them make sense. Noah, after all, we have 7 laws of Noah. He saved the universe. He was righteous. The Torah says it's righteous and perfect. The next one is Jethro. Jethro converted to Judaism according to most, even if not, the sanctification of God's name by coming to the Jewish people and say, now I know. He tried all idols in the universe, and that's the one that is the only one. He had made very, very unique statements to the Jewish people, bringing them a lot of comfort. So not only that, the Yitro, is a portion in which we read about the giving of the Torah, because he got credit for it. So Yitro, you would make sense. The next one we have is Korach. Korach, even though he was a rebellious, somebody that it caused a lot of trouble, we know that the Medrash, the Kabbalah tells us that when Moshiach will arrive, he will return back to serve God. Not only that, Korach was from descendants of Kehat. He carries the Holy Ark. So you cannot underestimate his righteousness. In fact, the commentators say that we say in Psalm 91, we say it every Friday night, Tzaddik katamar ifrach, a righteous will flourish or blossom like a palm tree. Tzaddik katamar ifrach is acronym Korach. Tzaddik is Kuf, the last letter. Katamar, Tamar, the last letter is Resh. Ifrach, Chet. So Korach makes the word Tzaddik katamar ifrach. So the King David, when he talks about a righteous man will flourish like a palm tree, is referring to Korach. So Korach makes sense. Pinchas, we all know, God gave him a covenant. All the Kohanim are Kohanim today because of Pinchas' heroic act. Balak, why is he named? We give him so much credit. So there are many answers. The first one, I'll share only 2. The first one is because Balak wasn't a simple man. He was a magician, not magician that we bring to perform for children. He had some magical powers. In fact, we see it. Rashi says that he was a greater magician than Bilam. Between the two, they were trying to work out something. Bilam was only a prophet. He didn't know the future. He didn't know much. Balak knew. And he knew that he is going to be connected to the Jewish people. In fact, he gave us King David. We all are descendants of King David, which means that the king that rules and connects the Jewish people to God are descendants of Balak. The granddaughter of Balak is Ruth, and therefore we get that credit. The second one is that this Torah is loaded with blessings, unfathomable types of blessings, and that you won't find any other part of the Torah. And therefore, Balak is getting all the credit. How many times did Bilam bless the Jewish people?
3 times.
I thought 3 times, but I counted there was a 4th one. When he kissed them, when he kicks them out, he says, go back home, I don't want you because I don't need your blessings. He gives a 4th one. I just counted it. So there are 4 times in which he blesses the Jewish people in an unusual way. In addition, the only place that we refer to the coming of Moshiach in the 5 books of Moses, not in the prophecy of Ezekiel and Isaiah, and we find, but in the 5 books of Moses, is in this week's Torah portion among the blessings of Bilam, and that's going to be the topic of our discussion. So I want to read to you before so that we have a good understanding of the Rebbe's point. The last one towards the end of the blessings this is what he says. And I want to translate it into English because it's poetic. Poetically, anytime somebody puts together a poem, it can be interpreted in many ways, and that's exactly what's going on with the blessings of Bilam. Half of it is in a poetic language, and therefore it can mean many, many things. So the verse he said, I saw it in two places. And chapter 24, verse 19, it says, V'yerd miyakov ve'evid sarid me'ir. Says the translation, the simple translation, a ruler will come from Yaakov in the future and destroy the remnant of a city, referring to Esau, and that allusion to the coming of Moshiach. He says there will be a leader from Yaakov that will destroy all the capital towns of those who oppose the Jewish people. But beforehand, on verse 17, he says, Bilam says in his prophecy, I perceive him, but he is not near. He's talking about Mashiach. I can see in the future something, but he's not that close. A star will shoot forth from Yaakov, a star referring to a very powerful human, and a staff will arise from Israel. Staff meaning a punishment, imagination, something that can give punishment. That's a staff. He will crush the princes of Moab. He will devastate all the descendants of Shet. Edom will be possessed. Seir, his enemy, will be possessed. And Israel will grow strong. In other words, again, he's talking about a star that will rise, referring to the King Mashiach that will eradicate all enemies of Jewish people. So far, so good. Now let's talk about the discussion. We're going to read today because I think it's easy to follow. Page 394. Regarding Bilam's prophecy concerning the end of days, when we say end of days, not a destruction that the world will come back to the way it was before God created it. The end of days referring the ultimate goal in creating the universe, where the universe will come to its perfection, that everything will be perfect, no evil, no animosity, no hate, no sickness, all serve God. He says, Bilam says, a ruler shall emerge from Yaakov and obliterate the remnant of the city. This is what we just read. Rashi comments, here is Rashi. There will be another ruler from Yaakov, meaning not just the ruler of the day Moshe, there will be another one. This prophecy concerned the King Mashiach, about whom it is written, he will rule from sea to sea and from the river to the ends of the earth. Pay attention, Mashiach rule from sea to sea and from the from the river to the ends of the earth. We find similar wording in the prophet Zechariah's description of the King Moshiach. He says not only Bilam, but Zechariah, when he's talking, Zechariah the prophet, when he talks about the coming of Moshiach, he uses a very similar phrase. Behold, your king meaning Mashiach, shall come, a poor man riding on a donkey. Remember that, riding a donkey? He will rule from sea to sea and from the river to the ends of the earth. So Rashi is bringing us that Mashiach is what he's referring to, Bilam, when he blesses the Jewish people. But what is Mashiach? He will rule from sea to sea and from the river to the ends of the earth. Zechariah says, same story, he will come on a donkey, he will rule from sea to sea and from the river to the ends of the earth. Rambam, now a second point where we talk about sea. The Rebbe is going to talk about what is so significant about sea to sea from river to the ends of the earth. Rambam refers to Zechariah's words when interpreting another verse from Bilam's prophecy, an earlier one that I think I shared with you. He shall break down all of Seth's descendants, stating, Rambam explained, what does it mean you'll break down all of Seth's descendants? This refers to King Mashiach, about whom it is written, he will rule from sea to sea. Again, Rambam wants to tell us that another verse of Bilam וירד מים וקרקר כל בני שת, he will break, he will crack all of Seth's descendants, meaning all the kingdom that oppose the Jewish people, refers to Moshiach, and Rambam concludes, what can Moshiach? From sea to sea. Ibn Ezra, another commentator from the 12th century, 11th century, also interprets the proof text cited by Rashi, says he will rule from sea to sea and from the river to the ends of the earth, as referring to the King Moshiach reigning over the entire world, stating, now Ibn Ezra is explaining what it means from river to river, from sea to sea, and from river to the ends of the earth, from the South Sea, called the Red Sea, to the North Sea, that is the ocean. So you have sea to sea. One sea is then on the south, which is the Red Sea, all the way to the ocean, which is the north. So from south to north, everywhere. And then from river to river, from the river to the ends of the earth, that is the river that emerges from Eden, where is this God started Mesopotamia. That's where Garden of Eden was. That's where God started it, which is in the beginning of the east. It starts on the east. It says in the Torah, in the book of Genesis, that God created Gan Eden, V'na'ar yotze mikedem. A river comes forth from the east. East until the ends of the earth, which is the end of the west. So again, Ibn Ezra explained river to river is from south to north, spanning all around, and from the river to the end of the earth is east to west. Is that clear? So you have Rashi says Moshiach comparing it river to river, sea to sea, river to the earth. You have Rambam when he talks about Moshiach, again, sea to sea and river to the ends of the earth. Ibn Ezra explained the reason this metaphor, these words are used, is because sea to sea is south to north, and river to the ends of the earth refers to the east to west. The Rebbe is asking two questions. Yes?
So Gan Eden is here somewhere.
It's a physical place. Yes,
here,
yes.
you just don't know.
We know where it is.
You know where Gan
I
Eden
told
is?
you, somewhere in Mesopotamia, between Iraq and Iran.
How come we haven't found it?
Covered with sand.
Who told you didn't find it? We know exactly. I can show you on a map and a point where it
So
is.
we should be able to
You can go there. It's a regular piece of
Chuck's
earth.
building a resort there.
It's a physical place. We have a very clear description in the Torah.
be like the best thing.
Once Adam was kicked and God put a guard to protect it, it was concealed
Right. Since.
in between mountains.
That's what I don't understand.
Is this related directly? Because
Moshiach has a poor woman coming on a donkey. Poor man's King Moshiach.
right, I'm surprised nobody stopped me there. Yeah,
Well, look, a king's supposed to be wealthy and so on. Can't be a poor
it
man.
doesn't say a king. It says a poor man riding a donkey,
That's King Moshiach.
and he will be afflicted with a lot of ailments and disease because he carries all our
Sins.
sins. But later on, he will rise to become the king.
Sounds vague.
Then he will have a B2 fighters.
I'm sure he didn't want to.
Sounds vaguely familiar. I'm not going there.
It was a car-
God forbid, don't even bring it into a holy place. Yes.
It
It's my job.
Harry says that Kohen Gadol high priest, if he was chosen, he had to be the richest of all of them, and all the Kohanim would
Throw gold coins into
give him all the wealth, so he should become rich. By the way, the Gemara says that it says that Mashiach will come with the clouds and clouds,
Mhm.
and today on clouds is just a private jet. And the Gemara says, if they are lucky, he'll come in clouds, meaning he'll come like a very wealthy man, first class. If they are unlucky, he will come like a poor man riding a donkey. And the Gemara says that in the Talmudic time, 1500 years ago, Kolu Kolat Kitzin, it's already past the first era. So it must be coming on clouds, must be a holy place. It is important to continue. So again, Bilam is talking about Mashiach coming making judgment and exacting punishment to the nations opposed to Jewish people. He appears to it in two places, but he refers to, Rashi calls it that a Mashiach will rule from river to river, sea to sea, and from river to the ends of the earth. Rambam uses the same language. Ibn Ezra explains sea to sea is south to north, and river to the end of the earth is referring to
East to west.
east to west. Says the Rebbe, clarification is necessary. Why do the verses use these words? The words from sea to sea and from the river to the ends of the earth, instead of simply saying over the entire earth? Why do you say river to river? Sea to sea and river to the ends of the earth. Say the rule over the world, or the like. Also, another question: it is necessary to understand why the verses mention from sea to sea, when Moshiach's rule will be manifest primarily over the lands and their inhabitants. What do see? He will rule from sea to sea. Moshiach has nothing to do with the oceans. Moshiach has to do with dry land where humans live. And therefore, using the metaphor of sea to sea does not make sense, because that's not where Moshiach rules. Moshiach rules on dry land. So you can say from the beginning of the earth to the end of the earth, and the best way to say is he will rule all over the world, all over the land. Why to use the metaphor of sea to sea and river to the ends of the earth? Says the Rebbe. Here is the Rebbe's interpretation, and hopefully it's a very powerful interpretation. It is possible to explain the above according to the interpretations of Hasidut, based on the words of the Alter Rebbe. The Alter Rebbe says that the ultimate perfection to be achieved in the era of Mashiach is dependent on our action and divine service over the entire course of exile. By studying the Torah and observing the mitzvot, heeding God's voice, we prepare the world as a whole, and the Jewish people in particular, for the ultimate perfection that will characterize the era of Mashiach. The Alter Rebbe says, in order for you to reach that goal, we need to create that period. So if I create a messianic place, community, environment, Mashiach will arrive. You cannot ask God to send Mashiach if you did not prepare messianic era or messianic environment. Since the manner in which God rewards men for his divine service follows the pattern of measure for measure, it follows that our action and divine service that lead to Mashiach's coming must resemble the lofty revelations that will characterize that era. We know God works measure for measure. It's not the first you're introduced to it, right? If you want Messianic era, serve God in a Messianic era environment or example, and then the reward would be measure for measure, the coming of Mashiach. Therefore, in other words, in order to reach the revelation of the sovereignty of King Mashiach, who will rule from sea to sea and from the river to the ends of the earth, every person must carry out divine service that is representative of this ultimate goal. Says the Rebbe, because we need to bring the universe to a state of Mashiach. How do you do it? By creating a measure for measure. When I live a messianic time and I act like I'm in messianic time, I am creating this type of measure for measure reward, and God will reward us in a messianic era. Therefore, he calls messianic era as sea to sea and river to the ends of the earth, as we'll discover. In other words, this is the application for us in our day-to-day life of service of God. If we serve God in the level of sea to sea and river to the ends of the earth, we will merit for Moshiach to come that will be a ruler from sea to sea and from the river to the ends of the earth. This concept can be understood in greater depth based on the teaching of the Rebbe of Nachum of Chernobyl. Nachum of Chernobyl was a grandson of the Baal Shem Tov, quoted in the name of Baal Shem Tov in his work Meor Einayim. In a book called Meor Einayim, Reb Nachum of Chernobyl writes, every Jew must perfect and prepare the portion of the structure of Mashiach within his soul. As explained in another source, there is an allusion to this concept in Nigla, in revealed Torah, the revealed dimension of the Torah. In one source, Talmud Yerushalmi interprets the verse, a star shall go forth from Yaakov in this week's Torah portion we just studied as referring to every Jew. However, another source in Talmud Yerushalmi and several commentaries on the verse interprets it as referring to Moshiach. The disparity is resolved by explaining that every person possesses a portion of the structure of Moshiach. Did you understand what I just read, Ali? No. Reb Nachum of Chernobyl said, you know what a puzzle of 3,000 pieces, of 6,000 pieces is? Every piece counts. What if I have a puzzle with all the pieces minus one? It's a defect. What's the value? If I went and sold you a puzzle, but I told you it's missing one piece, it's less than half. There is no value. It's not really what we want. Says the Reb Nachum of Chernobyl, Mashiach encompasses the entire Jewish people. Together, it's a puzzle that make one huge body called Moshiach, Messianic era. Every piece counts. Every piece is unique. You cannot put one piece in another place. It's exactly, so some pieces belong to the heart. Some pieces belong to the fingers. Some people are hair. Some people are the legs. Some people are skin. Each piece is unique. What will happen is when every piece will put itself where it belongs, together it will create what Mashiach is. Says the Rebbe, it explains another point, another disparity in the revealed part of Talmud in Yerushalmi. In a verse, it says that a star will rise from the house of Jacob. What does that star refer to? I told you, as Rashi explains, as a translation is Mashiach. A star is a Mashiach. However, Yerushalmi says a star refers to every Jew. And there is a disparity. Is it every Jew the star, or Mashiach is the star? Says the Rebbe, the explanation is very simple. There is a part of Mashiach that exists within each one of us. And therefore, a star will rise, refers to Mashiach, and a star will rise, refers to every Jew, because every Jew is what Mashiach is. In other words, all of us together, we are Mashiach. Each one of us, when is placed in the right spot, we will create the puzzle called Moshiach. The completeness of the Jewish people serving God is where we are placed in our spot, and therefore Moshiach will arrive. It's called measure for measure. When we create the environment and create that puzzle, Moshiach will arrive. Says the Rebbe. On this basis, I'm skipping one paragraph, on this basis can be explained that there is a precise allusion in the verse, he will rule from sea to sea and from the river to the ends of the earth, to the divine service to be performed by each individual, thus achieving his personal redemption as preparation to merit the ultimate revelation of the sovereignty of Mashiach throughout the entire world. Says the Rebbe, now we can understand why Mashiach, every time Rambam talks about it, Rashi brings it, Zechariah brings it, sea to sea, river to the ends of the earth, because he's talking about my Mashiach, a new Mashiach, as preparation for the real true Mashiach, which is ruling over sea to sea, river to the ends of the earth. Says the Rebbe, to clarify number 3, to clarify the concept, in a metaphoric sense, there is a difference between the sea and the dry land. There is a major differences between sea and dry land. What's the difference? Water, right. Water versus oxygen.
The sea can't see what's there.
The sea conceals its inhabitants. In other words, it's internal. Can you see the plants of the ocean? The answer is no. Can you see the animals in the ocean? The answer is no. You need a viewfinder, a fish finder, and even that, it doesn't give you an exact, it just give you some type of images, so the digital, but dry land is what? It's all revealed, it's all open. You can see for miles if the air is clear. So, says the Rebbe, sea to sea refers to 2 stages in the human which are concealed. They are there. There are animals there. There are plants there. There's a lot of objects there, but they are totally concealed. River to the ends of earth refers to a revealed state of the humans. And let me summarize so we can get it, we can understand. Sea to sea, and the Rebbe proves that point from many sources. The sea, the start, as Ibn Ezra says, the first sea from Red Sea. Remember, he says Red Sea to the ocean. Red Sea refers to the start of the power of a human, which is intelligent, chokhmah. Chokhmah is the beginning of everything. I think we discussed many times that the drop of semen that a man, plants within the female starts from the brains, and then it goes through many, many changes until it becomes a physical. And therefore, Chokhmah is the start of everything holy, because the brains rules the heart. The end of the sea, from sea to sea, the last sea, refers to the lowest of all concealed powers, which are action. Says the Rebbe, he will rule from sea to sea. A human being in a microcosm need to rule from Chokhmah to make sure he makes the right choices and chooses to serve God. That trickles down to all other aspects of his existence, all the way to action. The Rebbe explains that missing one of them misses the whole point. Because if you do not have Chokhmah, if you don't start with intelligence of knowing that my purpose is to serve God, you will end up misbehaving and not acting properly. If you miss in action, there are many people who know what's right and they tell you they can preach, but they don't act that way. We know it has no value because God values action more than anything else. If I speak about eating matzah on Passover, but I did not consume it, I did not make a mitzvah. You cannot make a bracha al achilas matzah, to eat matzah, and I speak about matzah. You have to actually taste the matzah. Same as every other mitzvah. If I am commanded to honor my parents and I talk about it all day, I do not fulfill the mitzvah. But if I actually honor my parents, I did do the mitzvah. Therefore, sea to sea, the concealed aspects of the human are internalized inside for him to serve God and connect himself to God. And it starts from sea, which is the first point, the start, Chokhmah, intelligent, all the way down for emotions and coming to action when we serve God. What does river to the end of the earth? That's already on dry land. Dry land metaphorically refers to an external component within my life. And these are my surrounding, my family, my friends, my community, the universe. Says the Rebbe, it's not enough for a man to serve God from sea to sea, internally, all about me. Even when it says, Rebbe, even when there is action, you give tzedakah, you help the poor, you teach Torah. Some people do it for their own grandiose, to elevate themselves and get closer to God. Another mitzvah, I get a bigger share in the world to come. I concentrate on internally my benefits. That's not enough. Equally as important is from the river to the ends of the earth and the dry land to impact the universe, to help a poor man, not because I'm getting what's in it for me, but actually because that's what God commanded me to do, to perfect the universe, to bring it to a better state. Says the Rebbe, these are the two. That's why when Rashi refers to Moshiach in this week's Torah portion, and Rambam and Ibn Ezra explain, he refers to a man that will rule from sea to sea and from river to the ends of the earth, even though Moshiach has nothing to do with the ocean. And you can see, rule over the universe. Because in order for me, the Torah wants to teach us that in order for me to get to that point, I have to create Moshiach within my own life. And I have to put my piece in the puzzle in the right spot. How do I do it? There is sea to sea level, where I start with intelligence and end with action, all for service of God. And the other part, the other component is from the river to the ends of the earth, making sure to realize that my goal in life is not just to perfect myself, not just to make myself a better human being, but also to make another person and the environment and the universe impacted by God and its commandments. By doing so, what we'll do, we will merit a measure for God to bring Moshiach that will change the entire universe and bring it to a perfect state permanently, without any time reverting back to the old life.
So if you rule the earth, it includes the water.
Not necessarily,
Why not?
because you have rulership over the earth, not the oceans.
If you're ruling the earth, the oceans just come along with it. It's almost like it's part of.
That's why you see that the Torah refers to as two separate categories, because you can have a rulership over the earth, but not over the oceans. Mashiach sea to sea, river to the ends of the earth, is all complete, all encompassing. But so you can say you rule over the entire universe. The entire universe will include also the oceans. But when we say that he rules the land, it's the land to exclude the oceans. But Moshiach will rule everybody. Have a good Shabbos, everybody.
Good.